Hi, I'm Karu and I'm a pattern designer behind the sewing pattern brand studio Costura. This is a video about my favorite tips about sewing swimwear. It can be a bit scary to think about sewing something stretchy like bikinis and swimsuits for the first time, but with the right tips and tricks everything is easier. I hope that this information will be helpful. First, know your supplies. Swimwear fabric. You need 4-way stretch lycra or swimwear fabric, meaning it should stretch in both directions for maximum comfort. There are also lycras that stretch only in one direction. I'd be cautious to use those for your first bikini, as you'd probably need to alter the pattern to make up for the lack of stretch in the other direction. If you shop for lycra in person, I definitely stretch the fabric to see how the print holds up. A lot of fabrics are printed on white background, and stretching them makes the white background appear. As swimwear is quite tight around your body, you'd not want that to happen. It's usually more visible when it's a print in darker colors, as the contrast between the base layer and the print is bigger and more visible once you stretch the fabric. Good quality swimwear fabric should not have this problem. Swimwear fabric comes in different weights, and if possible, try using something that is not super lightweight for your first project. A medium weight swim fabric will be easier to work with. Swim lining. Swimwear is usually lined with swimwear lining, which is essentially a nylon or polyamide knit fabric that is very lightweight and stretchy. Lining your bikini makes it have more structure, and it looks also better on the inside, as all the raw edges are enclosed. For bikini tops or swimsuits for bigger cup sizes, you can also use power mesh as a lining. This sturdy fabric will give more support. Can you not use a lining? Basically, you can do that, but I really like the lining as it makes the bikini more compact. I usually don't use lining for kids' swimsuits. Swim elastic. You need swimwear elastic, or also called rubber, for your bikini. This elastic is chlorine and sun resistant, and it will stand up all the water activities. It comes in different widths, and you should consult your pattern to know which one is recommended according to the seam allowance that is included in the pattern pieces. Hanna bikini uses an 8mm wide swimwear elastic and a wider 15mm wide elastic for the band and the straps for the bigger cup sizes. Second, the right needle and thread. You need a ballpoint needle for knit fabrics for your sewing machine. Stretch, super stretch and jersey machine needles all usually work well. I use either size 75 or 90 for almost everything I sew. Quality thread is important to avoid skipped stitches, especially when sewing on top of swim elastic. I use Mara 120 by Gutermann, and it comes in 1000-meter cones, and the price quality is very good. Third, cutting made easier. For cutting out the pieces, you can use your regular fabric scissors, but I like to use a rotary cutter as it's very comfortable once you get practice in. I use Olfa 45mm rotary cutter and 45 x 60 cm cutting mat for all my lingerie and swimwear cutting. Fourth, do your pinning. Swimwear fabric and lining are shifty, so go on and pin as much as you can. I usually pin first the beginning and the end of my seam, and then the parts in the middle. This way you can adjust your layers and slightly pull your fabric if necessary. Fifth, practice your stitches. To join the pieces of your bikini or swimsuit, you need to use either your regular sewing machine with a stretch stitch like a zigzag stitch or a serger or overlocker. I personally actually prefer using my sewing machine with a small zigzag stitch. I use a regular zigzag stitch with 1.5 to 2 length and 1.5 to 2 width to join the seams. As machine stitches can vary, first try out your stitching on a small scrap of swimwear fabric you'll be using. See if the stitching is small enough so it won't be seen on the right side of your project. Try stretching it to see if it's flexible enough. And finally, something that might seem tricky: how to attach the elastics. You need to sew the elastic on while also slightly pulling it to have enough tension. Swimwear elastic is quite strong, so I try to pull as little as possible, but as much as needed. Let's start with the first step. Put the elastic on the wrong side of your project, about 2 mm from the edge, so it won't be visible later on. My trick is to pull about half a centimeter per every 5 cm of the elastic. I try to find a mark on my sewing machine, for example the end of the metallic part here, with that distance, and then I use it as a guide to always pull the same amount of fabric to get an even tension. Using a zigzag stitch, 2.5 width and 2.5 length, sew close to the left edge of the elastic. Remember to only pull the elastic and not the fabric. Now fold the elastic under, again on the wrong side of the bikini top, and using a zigzag stitch, again 2.5 width, 2.5 length, sew the second row of stitching close to the left edge of the elastic. As you already have the elastic stretched from the first pass, you don't need to worry about it now. Just make sure that both the elastic and the fabric are evenly fed through your machine. You can stretch both of them slightly to make sure there won't be any wrinkles when you sew. These were my 5 tips about sewing swimwear, and I hope that this video has been useful for you. If you'd like to try out sewing your own bikini, you can get the Hanna bikini sewing pattern that will guide you through every step of the way. And if you'd like step-by-step support, you can also join the Hanna Bikini online course. You'll get in-depth video lessons about every part of the process and access to a community of fellow makers to share progress and ask questions. It's perfect for beginners and anyone wanting to improve their swimwear sewing skills. Thank you for watching. You can find more information about sewing lingerie at my blog, and you can get my patterns and bra making supplies at my online shop. Find all the links in the description of this video.